Yo, what is up, guys? Grim here. So today I want to talk about everything Bestiary, the league, all of it, the drama, all of the different things that we could have coming up, and all that good stuff. I'm also going to go a little bit into Uber Elder and what I've settled on as my main character. So this is kind of going to be the conclusion to the daily or bi-daily vlogs that I've been doing, and you're going to get a pretty good idea of where I am in the league and kind of what I've found out, what I've learned, and you're going to know all of it. So to begin with, I've benched my EK character for now. I played EK all of last league, and I wanted to try something new this league as my main character, so I decided to go with a Windripper character. And it's pretty effective, it's pretty fun, it's very quick, and I think that it's definitely more enjoyable for me than EK. Shield charge can be a bit clunky on a lot of maps because you run into a lot of obstacles and terrain, and this build doesn't have that problem because it is a Queen of the Forest movement speed build. So this isn't a guide or anything for Windripper, but I'm going to do a quick map for you guys just so you can get a feel for what it looks like. And I'll be able to do a guide coming up for that once I've got all my gear. Currently, I'm missing a ton of items for this build, so it is definitely not even close to being done. So it's a work in progress, guys. So just want you to understand that when I'm playing here. But as you can see, it does quite good damage. We have a respectable amount of life here. It's nothing amazing. We don't have like 6 or 7k or anything like that, but it is quite nice. It's basically a standard Windripper build. I tried to spice it up a little bit with the aspect skills. I'll go into that in a second when we get to Bestiary League. But those are fairly underwhelming in my opinion, and I didn't really enjoy them too much. So the main kind of advantage of Windripper here, those golems are trolling me, is that you can hit the whole screen without even aiming. Like all these arrows you can see, those black needles are just going everywhere. The other advantage is that Windripper has excellent single target damage. It's got easily the best single target of any of the clear builds, I would say. The only thing that's up there with it is KB, and KB obviously has a lot of damage due to Esh's Mirror, but I think Windripper at its maximum potential actually does have a bit more, due to the ability to be able to corrupt your bow and quiver for an additional arrow, and then just get the flat arrow from a shaper quiver just from rolling it. So I think that Windripper has the most single target out of any of the clear builds, and that's very good. The Windripper bow is also very fast, so you're going to have very fast attack speed as you can see here, which is always really nice. Obviously I'm wearing a Headhunter. You do not need a Headhunter for this build. It is not mandatory. Unlike something like Cosprey Discharge, Windripper functions just fine without a Headhunter. But obviously it is just the gravy on top. So that's kind of going to be the build for just a little preview of what I've been playing. Very good, lots of stuff to get still, really fun to be upgrading my gear and stuff like that. I'm really enjoying it. So let's get into what I've kind of learned and a bit of a recap. So we started off with EK, we moved on to Windripper. The transition was pretty good. EK costs no currency to start off with. That was a fantastic choice. Had a bit of a struggle with my Atlas. You can check out the past videos if you're interested in that. But other than that, everything went pretty smoothly. I was able to amass quite a lot of currency, and in general, it was a very effective league for me. I've learned a lot about group play, and you're going to be seeing a lot of that in some videos upcoming. And the new Bestiary items really are quite powerful for group play. And I'm going to get into that in other future videos as well when I talk about the set items. But in general, the aspect of the Avian, the Sakawala bird dinosaur thing, that is fantastic for champion builds. You can basically give a massive buff to all of your teammates around you. It's kind of like moving away from the cursed champion, and now we're going towards aspect of the Avian kind of taunt movement speed buff with Leah cast and stuff like that. That's very effective, but now you can also choose to do damage if you want, which is very good because you're no longer doing the quad curse, and that's very powerful. The new champion goes great with the aspect of the Avian set, which is very exciting. If you're interested in trying a different support which has a little bit of flavor and you're actually attacking and doing stuff like that, champion might be for you. The other new set, which I want to kind of point out as very important here, is the spider set. It's called Venomous. And that is easily the standout set. It's the best set in the Bestiary League. It does amazing things, and it's part of a new support build which I've seen floating around and talking to other people about, which is basically an occultist, a blasphemy occultist who runs the spider set, specifically the chest piece and the boots, and it's basically like having a super curse by having the venomous set on. It basically debuffs everything around you, making them take more damage, have lower elemental resistances, and move 30% slower. So that's attack and their cast speed and all that kind of stuff. Let's see if I have the portal here. I'm pretty sure I do have it. Yeah, Venomous' lair. That's how you're going to get the stuff. And you can craft the aspect of the spider onto an amulet or anything like that. And it's going to be very good, not just for supports, but also for boss killers and stuff like that. I think it's definitely the best aspect if you're a boss killer, because slowing everything around you by 30% just gives you that much more time to react. Obviously, it reserves 25% of your mana, but that's well worth it. It's easily the best aura defensively, and I would almost go out there and say offensively a lot of the time. 10% reduced elemental resistances is insane. And unlike the other aspects, it's not alternating. It's just one thing all the time, consistency, which is excellent. So that's going to be my kind of little overview about the sets. I did try out Farrell's on my EK character. I crafted Farrell's aspect onto my gloves. However, I found it extremely underwhelming, and it wasn't great unless you were running with an Auramancer so you could drop your hatred. Obviously, if you do some stuff with Enlighten 4 and stuff like that, maybe you can fit it in without having to drop hatred. But honestly, I'd just rather run Herald of Ash at that point. I don't think that the cat aspect is necessarily worth it. And then on Windripper, I also tried to do another aspect. I crafted aspect of the Avian on a quiver, a shaped quiver with an additional arrow, and tried that out. However, it just wasn't worth it either, because I just don't have enough mana to reserve Grace, aspect of the Avian, and Herald of Ice, so I had to give something up. And aspect of the Avian, I tried it out, it just wasn't great at all. I was really enticed by the movement speed on it, but the fact that it alternates just feels gross. It really does not feel nice, because sometimes you're fast, sometimes you're not, and obviously the other aspect of the Avian is that you get double damage 10% of the time sometimes. So not a lot of consistency there. It feels a lot like Trickster, like you don't know when you're going to do your damage, which kind of sucks. So I'm not the biggest fan of Farrell or Aspect of the Avian for damage dealers. However, Aspect of the Avian is insane for champion and supports in general. Gives your group a ton of movement speed, and it's just really, really good. Makes you snappy, moves around really fast. So Aspect of the Avian, fantastic. Aspect of the Spider, incredible. If you're doing Magic Find, the Farrell, the Aspect of the Cat, not an option really, unless you're running Enlighten or lots of auras or something like that. And then Tracheanis or whatever aspect, the crab, I haven't really experimented with it. It's very defensive, but I don't see any reason why you'd want aspect of the crab or over the spider. The spider just seems to do what the crab does way better. The crab is just some immunity to bleed, and that's if you're using the chest piece. And also some physical mitigation. So maybe it's good for Minotaur, but I'm pretty sure that you didn't need that physical mitigation, because you're already a super tank if you're doing Minotaur farming by using Brass Dome, and that would null and void the fact of the Krakian set. So I don't know. I think the Spider one is probably where it's at for boss killing and defense. The other two could be good. Farrell, maybe if you're messing around with no quant gear, could be nice. I don't know though. I don't think charges are a really big problem, and I'm not a big fan of the alternating buff. Having said that though, I did try them both, and that's just my opinion. Maybe try them for yourselves, but yeah, not a big fan of the alternating buff. So yeah, I think it's mainly the aspects are great for supports, and maybe not so much for DPS unless you're using the Spider one for bossing. So that's kind of the aspects in a nutshell. Obviously, I'm going to go into the gear, specific pieces, and which bits I think are best in an upcoming video when they all get added to my added to the PoE Wizard site. They're coming in probably in a couple of days or tomorrow. So that's really good. So Bestiary in general, I said I loved it in the last video, and I actually still do really enjoy it. I like the capturing of Beast. It's fun. I don't have a problem, obviously, because I play direct damage builds. However, I understand if you're playing totems or you're playing a dot build, it could be very frustrating. Obviously, the Necromancer nets were meant to help with that. I don't like the Necromancer nets. It feels really disjointed with the whole league. The whole point is to capture the beasts, and if they're dead, it just feels like I don't like it. So I have no trouble just using the thaumaturgical nets on the beasts. I think that's fun. I think it's really cool. And it also acts as a cull on the red beasts, so I like that a lot more over the necromancer nets because you can throw it at like 33% and it will just kill them. And when you're playing in a big party, having a cull like that is very powerful on those red beasts. So yeah, it's fun to do. I enjoy playing with the bestiary mechanic. So that's good. Big tick there. However, it's a bit frustrating capturing the crappy mobs around them, but whatever, it's not a big deal. So where the league really falls apart and falls on its face is that A, there's not enough beasts, and B, when you do encounter a beast, there's nothing like you don't get any currency reward. Nothing kind of monetary comes from killing a beast. It basically turns into an RNG slot machine when you go to the Blood Altar. So the big problem is there's no immediate rewards which are tangible and you feel like, yeah, cool, this is rewarding. I'm enjoying this. I just got a Chaos Orb or anything. So in all the past leagues, at least we got Abyss Jewels, we got Harbinger Orbs and stuff like that. Those were rewards. Even Ancient Orbs felt really good to get because you could like, ooh, I can have a go at the Headhunter. But when you capture a beast, it's like, is this beast worth it? Is it worth anything? I didn't really get anything from it immediately. I guess I'll check it out later and see if I got something for like the belt. So not great. The rewards feel terrible in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of this crafting system just because there's nothing that seems overly interesting and jumps out at me at all. So that's where it really falls apart for me. The one I was excited for was the guaranteed corrupted implicit, and that's not even in the game anymore. They didn't decide to add that in, to my knowledge, from what I've seen on Reddit. Obviously, I've experienced all of the different portals and stuff like that. I gotta say that the actual spirit beasts are really low in terms of their tuning. I don't know if that's because I had a low portal or something like that between the item level of the beasts, but I went in there with a friend who was running War Chief Totems, and it was at the point where I was like, oh, make sure you stop at 10% so I can capture it. And I was expecting it to take a bit of time to kill the beast, but it was to the point where I was like, oh man, it almost died and I missed it because it died that fast. It felt like a rare monster from a map. And it was just like, not great. So I don't think the challenge is necessarily there with the spirit beasts. They've put a lot of work into it, but the tuning feels a little bit off. Again, that might be because I used low item level beasts or whatever, but I'm just not sure how that works, if it actually affects it or anything like that. But yeah, that's kind of like how I feel about those. Having said that, again, the aspect rewards, they're really cool. I love that kind of new aura system that we've got that we can craft it on items. I think there's a lot of creativity there. I love that it's really helping out supports and team play over everything else. It really feels like this patch was focused on making sure group play was really excellent with things like Tailwind. You're really encouraged to come together as a group because when you're as a group, you give everyone each other a lot more damage and just really like you juice each other up. It's really great and makes it a lot more fun in a group. So again, the rewards are not great. I've never even used any of these crafting or creating any of these. I don't find them interesting. And from what I've seen of other content creators, they're pretty terrible when you do use them. So I think obviously needs need to be removed or changed in some way. But I guess it's everyone already knows that. So obviously there's the big fiasco where Etup became a rich oil lord from splitting unique items on stream and bought apparently two headhunters. I think it's fine. I don't think that the economy is destroyed or anything. I've gone to buy some shaped items and they're still normal prices. If one person makes a bit of money, like good on them, whatever, it doesn't really affect me. So I don't think you guys should be too worried about that. And obviously they're going to nerf this splitting of mods and whatever that is, and that's just fine the way it is. Obviously it's going to make six links easier to get, divine orbs easier to farm, but they already were pretty available in the form of tabula rasa and divination cards, so not a big issue. I think it's just fine. And the main issue was the shaped bases, like splitting a I-85 necklace would have been a disaster because that's a massive chase item currently in the game, and just being able to duplicate it endlessly via having these easy to obtain beasts is not a good idea. That defeats the whole idea behind Shaper and Elder bases, which was the big, oh, look at all these chase items we have. So I'm glad that's gone. I'm glad it's being removed. Good call on GGG. So overall, is the Bestiary League good? Not at the moment. I feel like we need more rewards from actually in the map when you're with the beasts, killing them, just higher drops or anything like that. Just up the drops, give us some pack size of random beasts or something like that. Just add some more monsters to the map because at the moment it does feel like standard to some extent until you run into a beast and it happens to be a yellow one, you're going to one-shot it. When I was playing EK, I one-shot the yellow beast with my light poacher trigger, which just so happens to trigger when you throw a net because light poacher triggers from everything. So that was extremely annoying, and hopefully they can juice up the yellow beast a little bit maybe, or just add more of them and more pack size, or just something to the maps to make them a little bit more fun to play with. So in general, I think it's a pretty underperforming league, not too exciting. The rewards are pretty underwhelming. The only good part about the league, in my opinion, is that the mechanic's pretty fun to do. I like throwing the net, it's pretty fun. And the set items are really cool for builds and kind of diversity, specifically the spider and the avian ones. So that's really good. Really enjoyed that. So moving on, I want to talk a little bit about the Uber Elder, which I have not yet encountered or done, but I have people on my friends list who I've talked to quite a bit who have farmed it multiple times and have given me the lowdown on how to either get to it, farm it, and kind of how it feels to play with. So in general, from what I understand and what I've been told, the fight is extremely difficult and very, very punishing. So you're going to have a bit of challenge there, especially if you're not a top tier mirror gear kind of guy. So there's going to be that kind of always out of reach goal for you, which is excellent. I think Pee-wee's needed that for a while, and the Shaper was kind of a joke. You could kill it very easily. So having the Uber Elder as that ultimate goal for everyone is fantastic. You need a top tier build with like a million DPS at least, or insane defenses so that you can grind through them and make sure you don't die and outlast them with lower DPS count. So basically you need a GG character with a good build and great gear. So that's what I think is really important. It basically drives people to keep in the game, keep in the league, keep engaged, and have that goal. I really love that. That's what it sounds like. I'm looking forward to taking it down myself when I get around to building a boss killer character. So how do you activate the Uber Elder? So I'm going to go over that now. Basically, what you need to do is first complete the Memory Eater quest line. And to do that, you can get 1 to 10 memory fragments from just doing your shaped maps, kind of like getting the Shaper's Orbs normally. So doing tier 1 maps, sorry, tier 5 maps, all the way up to tier 15 maps with a Shaper's Orb, sorry, with Elder Influence on them, and you'll loot the Shaper's Orb. Great, we already knew that. That was from last patch, and that's great. So that takes you up to 10 memory fragments, which is fantastic. And then we're going to go from 11 to 15. And the way you get these ones is by defeating Elder Guardians on red maps. So you're going to have to get the Elder back in the red zone, get his Guardians on some red maps, kill those, and each of those will drop a memory fragment from you up until memory fragments 14 and 15. So to get memory fragment 14, you're going to need to kill Elder on either a tier 15 or 14 natural map. So that means that one of these over here, or any of the tier 14 or 15s, and you're going to have to kill him on that, and it'll give you a memory fragment number 14. And then for memory fragment 15, you need to get Elder to specifically spawn on a tier 15 natural map here, and then kill him on that. And that's really where it's kind of annoying. Honestly, obviously that's where I come unstuck. I'm 14 out of 15. Getting him to land on a tier 15 map is pure RNG. You just have to keep doing it, keep spending your money until he lands there, which is kind of frustrating, a little bit annoying, and I really wish they would make it a guarantee spawn on a tier 15 if there's Elder Influence around there for the 15th memory fragment, because that would take the RNG out of it and make it all kind of just getting there, being able to be strong enough to do it, rather than just keep doing it just because you're not lucky. So that's what I want to see changed about the Uber Elder. That's how to get the 15 memory fragments, and then after you've done that, this is where it gets a little bit interesting, and it becomes a lot easier to do as well. So after you've got the 15 memory fragments, you talk to Zana, you do the rest of the quest line, you will receive your tier 16 orb, although it's pretty useless, no one's been using it, and there's no reason to use it, because what the tier 16 orb does is it just dilutes your Guardian map pool. And at the moment, there's no reason you'd want a tier 16 beach or anything over a Guardian map. So Guardian maps right now are worth around 35 chaos or a little bit less depending on the map and obviously the time you're watching this video. So a tier 16 strand is not going to drop you a Shaper fragment, which is worth 25C roughly or lower, depending on the map, obviously, and the time in the league. And B, might give you 0 returns, and obviously you'll make no money and just waste the map. And C, it doesn't allow you to continue to farm the Uber Elder, which I'm going to get to in a second. So the tier 16 orb is kind of a cool idea, but no one's going to use it. Like a person like me is going to sell the maps, and someone farming the Uber Elder, I'm going to get into a second, really wants to keep the maps. They don't want anything but Guardian maps. And the reason for that is, once you've unlocked the 15 memory fragments, the way you get the Uber Elder to spawn is to get him to be in the center. And all you need to do is push the Uber Elder the Elder influence onto the center, and you can do that by leapfrogging it like we've done in other videos, by completing maps around it to push him eventually up here. And when he's influencing Guardian maps, then you can push him onto the center and he'll influence that just like any other map. So consider these 5 maps kind of just like any other map, and that you can push Elder influence onto them. So previously, before you got the 15 memory fragments, you could not influence the center or the Guardian maps. Obviously that changes after you've got the 15 and you can influence them. So here's where it becomes a little bit different to normal. So once you have the Elder influence on all the Guardian maps and the center, it doesn't matter how big the influence is, Elder will immediately spawn. So all you need to do to spawn in the Uber Elder is get him on the center and get him on the Guardian maps. And then he's in, no matter how many you've got. If you had only influence on the center and these 4 maps, he would still instantly spawn. That's the way they've got it, and I'm glad they did it that way. So you don't have to expand it out and have random of the Guardians not landing on the other Guardian maps and stuff like that. So I love the way it works after you've got the memory fragment, and it does allow you to farm him a little bit better. However, we do know to leapfrog influence, you do need to complete maps so that you can push the Elder onto where Shaper used to be. So what this means is that you need a ton of Guardian maps. So what I was talking to the people who have done it, who have said, is that you need about 4 Guardian maps to just activate the Elder onto the center and the other Guardian maps, obviously. And then you need another 4 because when you want to go into the Guardian, the Uber Elder fight, you have to kill all the Guardians on the tier 16 maps after they've spawned there. So 4 to get him influenced on there, and then 4 to get into the fight, and then use the Shaper set that you just got to obviously get into the fight. So that's 8 Guardian maps just to get into the Uber Elder fight. So again, why would you want to dilute your map pool of Guardian maps with the tier 16 orb? It just doesn't make sense. You're actually going to get great returns in the tier 16 maps anyway, and the fragment, so you can run Shaper later and get that juicy Starforge or Dying Sun or something like that. So it just doesn't make sense to shape any map with tier 16 right now. Everyone would just much rather sell the Guardian maps because they're in such high demand due to Uber Elder farming. So yeah, tier 16 orb, really wish it would be a bit cooler. Maybe it would have permanent Elder influence on it or something like that if you shaped it up. That would have made it a bit cooler, but yeah, a bit disappointed in that. I was really looking forward to min-maxing that, but it just hasn't turned out that it's going to be very useful at this stage. So, the Uber Elder fight, is it worth farming? So, currently it's got a massive buy-in cost. Obviously, you need the Guardian maps and all that stuff. However, if you use Red Sextants on Guardian maps with influence, with chisels, and possibly some Varling if your build can take it, you can almost sustain Guardian maps from what I have been told. So basically, a friend of mine who is pretty active in the Discord was telling me he's done 100 Guardian maps, he's rolled them to the 9s, and he got about 81 maps back of Guardians. So those are very good returns. It does sound pretty nice. It sounds pretty normal. It's very believable. I do believe that he is telling the truth, and he has been getting those returns. So he's obviously getting the fragment on top of that, and he's making a killing. So he's getting the Guardian maps back, getting the fragment, and getting to mess around with Uber Elder, which is great. He's making a killing there. So if you're a boss killer, there's never been a better time to make money for you, as long as you can sustain your map pool and you don't have to buy tons of Guardian maps. So that's really great. Uber Elder is fantastic. I haven't got a chance to take any of the items for a spin yet, but I'm looking at Void Fletcher as a little bit of a one to play around with. But in terms of what really looks like of value from the Uber Elder, the rings look great. for boss killers and just general non-magic find mappers. Quiver looks interesting, not sure it'll be too great. The sword is obviously fantastic. I've got a few ideas for that in mind if I ever pick one up. That's the Voidforged sword. The helmet looks a bit difficult to use. I'll be going into detail, obviously, about these items in another video. But in general, the main money maker for everyone will be Watcher's Eye if you get a good roll. Those are guaranteed to sell. They're 3 modifier Watcher's Eyes from Uberelder. That's much better than 2. You've got 50% chance more to hit a good mod, and if you hit triple mod, you became the richest person in PoE basically, because those are insane, just absolutely bonkers. If you get a triple hatred jewel or something like that, you're just, whew, it's like you can chuck that on any build and it'll increase the damage by 50 or 60% straight up, on top of everything else. So they're really great. The rewards are fantastic, great chase items, just really, really well done for that. Fight's great. The buy-in is nice and high, so the items will stay high, they won't be over-farmed, and the items are very powerful. Maybe the quiver could have been a bit better. I would have liked it to be more like Light Poacher or something like that, or like, better, but I haven't tried it yet. Hopefully it's as good as it seems, or if better. So I'll make a video with that. It's currently 1 Exalt, so I'll pick one of those up sometime. Yeah, it looks really good. Overall, the patch feels good. I love the new divination cards. They have a lot of flavor to them. I'll be talking about those obviously in the next video as well when we throw all the stuff up on the website. But I know most of the drop locations for those, and they're quite interesting. They've been pretty creative with the drop locations this time. They're not just from a map. They're generally from monsters or encounters, which I really enjoy and I really like. I think that's very good. So in general, great league. The league mechanic needs a lot of work. I would have liked to see more changes with the ascendancies. They did a great job with some of them, and obviously some others got no changes or still feel underwhelming. Specifically, the Berserker feels unlucky and just bad, and the Elementalist feels like it's missing its place in the game. I can never find a reason to go Elementalist for anything, apart from Golemancer, which just seems like a worse Spectres, unfortunately, currently. But yeah, I feel like the Deadeye really has an identity now as the clear speed bow build. Pathfinder's still great. Raider needs a lot of work, I feel like. I'm not going to go over all of them, but yeah, I think Inquisitor is a good example of something that was fine already. It had a great identity and it retained that. But yeah, we have some work to do with the others, and I'd like to see continual improvements with that. So I think overall, great patch. I'm having a blast. As always, I've been just doing my mapping thing, making the money. I've still got a lot to do. I want to make a Cosprey character. I want to make a Wander character. I want to make a Boss Killer character. And I want to mess around with some supports as well if I can find someone to support who is willing. So I want to make a lot of guides for you guys. Specifically, I really want to focus on the support guides because there's just nothing out there currently really for stuff like Orobot supports, like a guide for that. And it's just going to be in general pretty difficult. So in terms of things coming up, I got a lot of stuff for the website. I'm dying for a Watcher's Eye dual calculator. I can't find anything good currently, just stuck with the wiki page, a massive long list. I'd love something where you could just click on the auras and you could see the mods like that. Might make that in a couple days. We'll see. We're adding all the new items to the site. I'm going to go over them next time because I think there's a few really interesting ones to point out. That's going to be my recap of my experience in the league so far and how I'm feeling. Really interested to see what GGG brings us coming up with the changes. They've promised some interesting changes, so I'm hoping they pull it out of the bag because the Necromancer nets were a bit of a flop in my opinion. I think they alienated a bunch of people and didn't really please the people they were aiming to please due to the fact that half the time you shatter the enemy and the Necromancer nets don't work on shattered enemies. So not great for the kind of initial release of the league mechanic, but in general, great patch, really enjoying it, really looking forward to what's next. So I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. It's probably going to be on items in general, and after that we're going to be looking at Windripper guide and then probably some other stuff down the line. So look forward to that. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.